Quinn Carter was elbow-deep in dish soap and broken dreams when the stranger walked into his life right through the front door of his crumbling world. "Dad, the spaghetti's sticking again," Violet yelled from the living room, her tiny voice echoing through the too-small apartment. "I'm coming," Quinn shouted back, yanking the pot off the stove and sighing at the scorched bottom. That was the third pan this month. He was 29, a single dad with a 6-year-old daughter, a mountain of bills, and a job at a mechanic's garage that barely kept the lights on. His ex had walked out when Violet was 2, leaving only a note and a trail of silence. Since then, it was just the two of them, Quinn and Violet, against the world. He was rinsing the burnt spaghetti when the knock came. Not a delivery, not a neighbor, just a single knock that somehow sounded important. He wiped his hands on a dish towel and opened the door. The woman standing there looked like she belonged on the cover of a fashion magazine. Silk blouse, tailored cream-colored pants, heels that probably cost more than his rent. Her eyes were wide, confused, and God help him, strikingly beautiful. "Hi," she said, holding up a sheet of paper. "I'm looking for a guy named Marcus." Quinn blinked. "No Marcus here, you've got the wrong address." "Oh," she looked down, brows furrowed. Wait, this isn't apartment 3B. "This is 3A, he said. "B is across the hall." She let out a breathy laugh. "Wow, can't believe I messed that up. I was so sure I had the right place." "You're not the first. Mailman still gets it wrong sometimes," he said, stepping back. "You want me to knock for you?" "No, it's all right. I'll find it." But she didn't move. She looked behind him, eyes catching on Violet, who was now standing on a chair trying to stir the sauce with a plastic spoon. "You've got to help her," the woman said, smiling. "That's my daughter, Violet." "Hi, Violet," she said warmly. "Who are you?" Violet asked, curious and unfiltered like always. "I'm Savannah," she said, crouching to Violet's level. "I came to drop something off, but I think got a little lost." "Want spaghetti?" Violet offered, still holding the spoon proudly. Savannah laughed, tempting. Quinn ran a hand through his messy hair. "Sorry for the chaos. It's not much, but it's home." "It's warm," Savannah said gently, "and that's more than a lot of places." She lingered for half a second too long before straightening. "Should go. Sorry for bothering you." "No bother," Quinn said, watching her walk across the hallway and disappear into 3B. He didn't expect to see her again. But the next day she was back. This time with a grocery bag. "I owed Violet a thank you for the spaghetti offer," Savannah said when Quinn opened the door. "You brought groceries." She lifted the bag. "Fresh pasta, real sauce, some garlic bread. Figured if you don't mind, could cook. I actually love cooking." Quinn hesitated, unsure how to react. It wasn't every day a woman like her offered to make dinner in his beat-up kitchen. "You don't have to." "I want to," she said simply, "and I promise not to burn it." That night, while Violet watched cartoons in the other room, Savannah made pasta that didn't stick and garlic bread that didn't taste like cardboard. She didn't ask personal questions. She didn't judge the flaking paint or the broken cabinet hinge. She just cooked, talked, laughed. "You're good with her," Quinn said after dinner, as they washed the dishes together. "I like kids," Savannah replied, smiling, "and she's special." Quinn looked at her closely. "You don't seem like someone who hangs out in places like this." Savannah paused. "You're right, I usually don't." "So why are you here?" She met his eyes. "I needed something real." He didn't understand it then, but he felt it. That pull. That strange, unspoken connection between two people who were supposed to be strangers. Over the next few weeks, Savannah kept showing up. Sometimes with groceries. Sometimes with books for Violet. Once, with a bouquet of wildflowers she said reminded her of something she couldn't quite explain. Quinn found himself looking forward to her knock. He told himself it was just kindness, maybe boredom, or maybe she just liked Violet. But then came the night when she brought over dinner, steak this time, perfectly cooked, and as they sat at the table, Violet dozing on the couch, Savannah looked up at him and said softly, "You're a really good dad, you know that." Quinn's throat tightened. "I try." She reached across the table and touched his hand. "You don't have to do it all alone." He froze. The touch was light, but it burned. "You barely know me," he said quietly. "I know enough," she whispered. He didn't kiss her that night. But he wanted to. God, he wanted to. The next day, she didn't show up. And the day after that, nothing. Quinn told himself he didn't care, that she had her own life, that it was probably too good, too clean, too far from his. But her absence felt like a missing piece. Then, 1 week later, she returned. This time in a sleek black car that gleamed under the streetlight. She stepped out in a tailored navy coat, heels sharp against the pavement. "Savannah," he said as he opened the door, Violet peeking from behind his leg. "I was in Paris for work," she said quickly, as if realizing how strange it sounded. "I didn't mean to disappear. I should have said something." "Paris," he repeated, confused. She hesitated. "Quinn, there's something I need to tell you." He waited. "I'm not just some woman from down the hall." Her voice dropped. "I'm Savannah Preston. My family owns Preston International. I run it now." His mind blanked. That name, Preston, one of the biggest luxury conglomerates in the world. "I didn't mean to lie," she said softly. I liked being normal with you. I liked being seen for me, not my last name." Quinn stared at her stunned. "You're a billionaire." She nodded, eyes searching his face. "But I'm also the woman who fell for a man who makes burnt spaghetti and tells bedtime stories like they're magic." Silence stretched between them. Then Violet tugged on his sleeve. "Dad, is she gonna stay for dinner?" Quinn looked at Savannah. And for the first time in years, he smiled. "I hope so," he said. "I really hope so." The door clicked shut behind her, but Savannah didn't move. She stood just inside Quinn's apartment, hands wrapped tightly around a paper bag that didn't match her tailored coat or the sleek car still idling at the curb. Quinn watched her, unsure whether to offer coffee or ask what someone with a private jet was doing in a two-bedroom walk-up again. "I brought pastries," she said, finally stepping forward. "From a bakery in the Marais. Violet mentioned last time she liked chocolate croissants." He took the bag, still stunned. "You flew them back from France." "I had a meeting in Lyon yesterday. The flight was already booked," she said quickly. "But yes, I thought of her." "Of course you did," he said, shaking his head as he set the bag on the counter. "You know, I've been trying to figure out why someone like you would keep coming back here." Savannah's gaze dropped to the floor. "I told you, I wanted something real." "And you found that in a guy who fixes mufflers and can't even afford a microwave that works." Her eyes lifted. "Found it in someone who speaks to his daughter like she's the most important person in the world, who doesn't pretend to be someone he's not." Quinn leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "You didn't tell me who you were." "I know, and I'm sorry," she said, stepping closer. "But I didn't lie, just delayed the truth." "Same thing." "No, it's not," she said, voice firmer now. "I didn't hide because I was trying to trick you. I hid because I liked being seen without the headlines, without the weight of a company or expectations." "Must be nice," he said bitterly, "to have the option to disappear into someone else's life. Some of us don't get that choice." Savannah reached for the edge of the counter, her fingers brushing the worn laminate. "You're right. I don't know what it's like to worry about rent, but I know what it feels like to be alone in a room full of people who only care about your name. Quinn looked at her for a long moment. You're not alone here. I know, she whispered. From the living room, Violet's voice broke the tension. Can we eat the croissants now? Savannah smiled tentatively. Of course. Quinn nodded toward the table. Go ahead, I'll grab plates. Over breakfast, Savannah told Violet about the Eiffel Tower, describing it in detail that made her eyes go wide. She described the bakery that served pastries in tiny paper cones and the accordion player who played the same song outside her hotel every night. Violet hung on every word. Afterward, while Violet colored in her room, Quinn walked Savannah to the door. You didn't have to bring all this, he said. I know. But you did. Savannah hesitated. Would it be all right if I came by again tomorrow, just for a little while? No gifts, no stories, just time. Quinn studied her. Why? Because I miss the quiet here, she said, her voice softer than he'd ever heard it. And I miss you. He didn't answer right away, but after a long pause he said, you can come by. The next day she arrived without a driver or a gift, just her. And the day after that, she showed up again. Their rhythm returned, slower this time, steadier. They didn't talk about her company or his bills. They existed in a space between those things, where Violet's laughter filled the silence and dinner didn't come from a box. Then one evening, as rain tapped against the windows and Violet was curled on the couch with her sketchbook, Savannah sat at the kitchen table, her eyes distant. What's going on? Quinn asked. I have to go to London next week, she said, for a fundraiser. All right. But I want you to come with me. He stared at her. You want me to fly to London? Yes, you and Violet. Savannah, I don't have a passport. Violet doesn't either. Can't just pack up and... I'll handle it. I can have everything expedited. He shook his head. It's not that simple. I can't just leave my job. I already spoke to your boss. Quinn stood, the chair scraping back. You what? I asked if he could give you time off, she said quickly. Told him I'd cover your wages. I wasn't trying to interfere, I just didn't want it to be a reason you said no. He rubbed a hand over his face. You really don't get it. You don't get what it feels like to have someone step in and rewrite your life without asking. I didn't mean to rewrite anything. But you did, he said. You keep showing up and fixing things like I'm broken. Savannah rose slowly. I don't think you're broken, Quinn. I think you're exhausted, and I wanted to give you something you've never had a break. He didn't answer. I'll be back in a week, she said finally. If you change your mind, call the number I left on the fridge. If not... She looked toward Violet, then back at him. I'll understand. The door closed behind her. That night, Violet padded into the kitchen in her socks, her sketchbook under one arm. She's sad, she said, sitting at the table. She's leaving for a little while. Are we going? Quinn looked at his daughter, the only person whose opinion had ever truly mattered. I don't know, he said. Violet pushed the sketchbook toward him. On the page was a drawing of the three of them standing in front of a building with a clock tower. Big Ben, he realized. We should, she said simply. Quinn stared at the drawing long after she went to bed. He didn't know what terrified him more, the idea of asking for more than his world had given, or the possibility that someone like Savannah Preston might actually mean it when she said she cared. The next morning, he picked up the phone. I need to get a passport, he said. 2, actually. The voice on the other end smiled. Already ahead of you, Mr. Carter. The plane cut through the clouds like it belonged to another world, and in a way, it did. Quinn sat rigid in his seat, his knees brushing the leather in front of him, barely registering the flight attendant politely offering champagne he reflexively declined. Across from him, Violet was curled under a cashmere blanket, headphones on, eyes wide at the in-flight movie selection. She looked like she'd stepped into a fairy tale. Savannah caught his glance and leaned closer. "You okay?" He nodded, though it was stiff. "Yeah, just trying to process." She reached for the tea beside her and took a sip. "I know it's a lot. If this feels like too much, we don't have to do any of the events. We can stay in the hotel, order room service, take walks by the river." Quinn exhaled slowly. "You say that like it's normal. I've never even been on a plane before." Savannah blinked. "You didn't say." "You didn't ask." He glanced at Violet, then back at her. "But I'm glad she gets to see this, even if it's just once." Savannah tilted her head. "It doesn't have to be just once." He didn't answer. The car that picked them up in London wasn't like anything Quinn had ever seen outside of movies. It was sleek, silent, and it came with a driver in a tailored uniform who addressed Savannah as Miss Preston and opened doors like they were made of gold. The hotel, if it could even be called, that was a converted palace. Literally. Chandeliers sparkled across ceilings that looked hand-painted by angels, and their suite was big enough to fit their entire apartment twice over. Violet ran from room to room, gasping at the marble bathtub, the terrace view, the small plate of pastries arranged with edible flowers. She spun in circles, laughing as her footsteps echoed across the polished floors. Quinn leaned against the doorway, watching her. Savannah stood beside him, arms crossed loosely. "There's a gala tomorrow night. I'd like you to come with me." "I don't know how to tie a bow tie." "I'll take care of that." He looked at her sideways. "You keep saying that." "Because I mean it." Before he could respond, Violet burst back into the room, holding a velvet box. "Look what was on the bed. Can I open it?" Savannah smiled. "It's for you." The box clicked open to reveal a delicate bracelet with tiny charms, each one a different shape. A book, a star, a little wrench. Quinn raised a brow. "A wrench?" "I asked her what her favorite thing about her dad was," Savannah said quietly. "She said he can fix anything." Violet beamed. "It's so shiny." "Only wear it when we go out, okay?" Quinn said gently. "Okay," she said, darting back to her room. He turned to Savannah. "You didn't have to do that." "I wanted to." His jaw tightened. "I don't want her to expect this, to think this is normal life." "She won't," Savannah said, "because you've already taught her what matters." The next evening, Quinn stood in front of a mirror, staring at a tuxedo that somehow fit like it was molded to his shoulders. A stylist had come by earlier Savannah's idea and handled everything from cufflinks to cologne. He barely recognized himself. Violet peeked in, her dress a soft lavender that shimmered under the lights. "You look like a prince." He gave her a crooked smile. "And you look like a queen." Savannah stepped into view, and for a moment, Quinn forgot how to breathe. Her gown was a midnight blue that swept the floor, her hair pinned back to reveal earrings that glittered like stars. But it wasn't the dress. It was the look in her eyes when she met his like. He was the only solid thing in the room. "You clean up well," she said softly. He cleared his throat. "I was gonna say the same, but I think I'd be lying. You don't look real." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. They arrived at the gala in a car that purred like a secret. Photographers swarmed the entrance, flashes lighting up the night. Quinn moved instinctively in front of Violet, but the driver already had her shielded, whisking her through a side entrance with one of Savannah's assistants. Savannah touched his arm. "You don't have to say anything, just stay beside me." Inside, the ballroom shimmered with crystal, gold, and carefully curated power. Conversations buzzed with words like mergers and acquisitions, and people glanced their way with curiosity edged in calculation. A man in a navy suit approached, his smile tight. "Savannah, we've been waiting for you." Quinn stepped back slightly, letting her handle it. "This is Quinn Carter," she said, "a guest of mine." The man blinked. Of course, Quinn, pleasure." Quinn nodded, unsure what to say. He wasn't used to being looked at like a math problem someone couldn't quite solve. Later, as music filled the room and couples danced beneath chandeliers, Savannah found him by the balcony doors. "Can't tell if you're hiding or waiting for the right moment to escape." He glanced at her. "How do you live in this world every day?" "Carefully," she said, "and not without cost." She looked away, then back. "My father built this empire. When he died, they thought I'd sell it off. Instead, I doubled our worth in 2 years and gutted half the board." Quinn blinked. "You've never told me that." "I didn't want to scare you off." "You didn't." "Then why do you look like you can't wait to leave?" He looked down, fingers tightening on the champagne glass. "Because I don't belong here, and I know it. They all know it." "I don't care what they know," she said. "I care about you." He shook his head slowly. "You say that, but at some point you're going to want someone who fits, someone who was born into this." "I've had that. It was empty, all tailored smiles and cold hands. I don't want someone who fits, I want someone who sees me." She stepped closer. "And you do." Quinn's voice dropped. "You deserve someone who doesn't flinch when a valet calls his name. Someone who doesn't feel like a fraud every second he's wearing a suit." Her hand touched his chest, just above his heart. "I want you, with your calloused hands and your burnt spaghetti and the way you look at Violet like she's the sun." He didn't answer, couldn't. "I'm not asking you to change," she said. "I'm asking you to stay." The music swelled behind them. Inside, a waltz began, couples swirling in patterns that looked choreographed by gods. Savannah extended her hand. "Dance with me." "I don't know how." "I'll lead." He hesitated only a second before placing his hand in hers. And in that moment, beneath a sky filled with chandeliers and doubt, Quinn Carter did something he never thought he would. He followed her into the light. Rain tapped gently against the windows of the London suite as Quinn leaned on the terrace railing. The city spread wide below him in glittering silence. The gala had ended hours ago, but his thoughts hadn't stopped spinning since he'd stepped off the dance floor. Behind him, the door creaked open. "I figured you'd be out here," Savannah said, stepping barefoot onto the stone tiles in a silk robe. "It's freezing." "I couldn't sleep," Quinn said without turning. "Too much noise in my head." She joined him at the railing. "Do you regret coming?" "No," he looked at her, "but I don't know what happens next." Savannah didn't answer right away. "I've been thinking about that too." He crossed his arms. "You're returning to a boardroom with 100 people waiting on your next move. I'm going back to an apartment where the ceiling leaks every time it rains." Savannah rested her arms on the railing beside him. "You think this ends when the trip does?" "Doesn't it?" "No." He looked skeptical. "You have a life built on schedules and shareholders. Have socket wrenches and a 6-year-old who still thinks the tooth fairy owes her $5. "I know what your life looks like," she said gently, "and I still want to be part of it." "You don't even know what that means. Violet gets sick when the weather changes. Her school's always short on art supplies. I work weekends and fix broken bikes for kids in the building because their parents can't afford new ones." "I want to know all of it," she said, "not just the easy parts." He exhaled, pressing his fingers against his temples. "You're offering me everything, and I don't know how to accept it without losing myself." Savannah turned to him. "Then let's build something new. Not mine, not yours, ours." He studied her face, searching for hesitation and finding none. Behind them, a soft knock sounded from the bedroom door. Quinn opened it to find Violet standing in her pajamas, rubbing her eyes. "I can't sleep," she mumbled. Savannah crouched down. "Want to come sit with us?" Violet nodded and padded over to the terrace, climbing into the chair beside Quinn. He draped a blanket over her shoulders, and she leaned against him without a word. Savannah looked at them both. "I was thinking," she said quietly, "what if we made London a regular thing, not in hotels, something real, a home?" Quinn blinked. "You're talking about moving." "Not permanently, but a place here and one back home, something that belongs to all three of us." Violet perked up. "We'd have 2 houses." Savannah smiled. "If your dad's okay with it." He looked between them, his daughter, sleepy-eyed but buzzing with wonder, and the woman who'd walked through his front door by mistake and never really left. "You're serious?" he asked. She nodded. "I already found a place near a school I think Violet would love. It has a little garden and a sunroom, and a garage big enough for your tools." His voice caught. "You've been planning this." "I've been hoping," she said. He turned to Violet. "What do you think, Bug?" Violet bit her lip. "Will it have pancakes on Sundays?" Savannah grinned. "Every Sunday." "And bedtime stories." Quinn placed a kiss on her forehead. "Always." Violet nodded solemnly. "Then I'm in." The next morning, the 3 of them walked along the Thames bundled in coats and scarves, stopping for hot chocolate at a corner cafe where no one recognized Savannah and no one cared who they were. Quinn watched as Savannah taught Violet how to tell which direction the boats were headed based on the tide. Later, back in the suite, Quinn stood beside Savannah as she clicked through photos on her tablet images of a modest but beautiful home, with ivy on the walls and large windows that faced the sunrise. "I don't know what to say," he murmured. "I say yes." He looked at her. "I don't want to take your money." "You're not," she said. "You're building a life with me." He hesitated. "What if I mess it up?" "Then we fix it, together." He pressed his forehead to hers. "I've never had someone choose me like this." "You've been chosen every day, Quinn. You just didn't know it." She brushed her lips against his. "I love you." He froze, heart thudding. Then, slowly, he placed a hand against her cheek. "I love you too." 3 months later, summer was blooming in London, and laughter echoed through the garden of their new home. Violet chased Bubbles with a golden retriever puppy nipping at her heels Savannah's welcome home surprise. Quinn stood beside the grill, tongs in hand, flipping burgers with practiced ease as Savannah set a pitcher of lemonade on the table. The sun dipped lower, casting golden light across the backyard. Quinn stepped down onto the grass and pulled Savannah into his arms. "This is real, right?" he whispered. She wrapped her arms around his waist. "It's ours." They kissed under the open sky, with Violet laughing behind them and the sounds of a life they built together humming through the air. No suits, no headlines, just love earned and overflowing. Quinn had spent years surviving. Now he was finally living. The scent of lemongrass and jasmine drifted through the open windows as Savannah walked barefoot across the sun-drenched floors of their London home. Morning light poured in through the tall windows, catching the edges of her silk robe as she moved toward the kitchen where Quinn was already preparing breakfast, sleeves rolled up, hair damp from a shower. He glanced up as she approached, and a slow smile spread across his face. "You're up early." "I heard someone trying to murder eggs in the kitchen," she teased, leaning on the counter. "They're not murdered. They're rustic," he said, flipping the omelet with exaggerated care. "Besides, you're the one who insisted I learn how to make breakfast without burning the house down." "That's because you set off the smoke alarm last time," she reminded him, reaching for a piece of toast. I maintain that was an overly sensitive alarm system. The bacon wasn't even that black. Savannah laughed and took a bite. You're getting better. I'm trying, Quinn said, setting the finished plates on the table. Especially since someone's about to become a lot busier. Her eyes softened. You read the article. Front page of the Financial Post, he said, sliding into the chair across from her. They're calling you the heartbeat of ethical luxury. You made sustainable fashion sound like a revolution. Savannah shrugged, brushing a crumb from her lip. It should be. And yet you came home to make pancakes with Violet and scrub, paint off the dog's tail. I'd rather be here than in any press room, she said. Besides, you promised me a normal morning. He reached for her hand across the table, rough fingers curling around hers. You've got it. A soft knock came at the door, and Violet peeked in, her cheeks still pink from sleep. I can't find my ballet shoes, she said, rubbing one eye. They're in the laundry room, Quinn said. You left them in the garden after pretending to be a squirrel yesterday. Violet blinked. Oh. Savannah stood. I'll grab them, eat your strawberries. As she walked away, Quinn watched her go, the quiet steadiness of her presence anchoring something deep in him. He'd spent years expecting things to fall apart, but now, months in, this life wasn't breaking, it was blooming. Later that afternoon, after dropping Violet off at her rehearsal class, Quinn and Savannah took a walk through Kensington Gardens. The air was crisp, and clouds curled above them, but neither noticed the chill. Savannah linked her fingers with his as they strolled past the fountains. I have a meeting in Milan next week, she said. I was thinking you could come. He hesitated. What about Violet? Her school has a short break. She could stay with Clara. Clara, their neighbor and Violet's part-time piano teacher, had become something of a surrogate aunt over the past few months. Quinn nodded, reassured. I'd like that, he said. I've never been to Italy. You'll love it, and I want to introduce you to some of the artisans we're working with. They're the reason I started the new line. He looked at her. You really want me involved in all that? I don't want to separate my life anymore, she said. I spent years drawing lines between who I was at work and who I was when I came home. You've blurred those lines in the best way. They stopped beneath a tree in bloom, the petals fluttering around them like confetti. Savannah looked up at him, eyes clear. I know you worry about fitting in, she said, but you don't have to. I don't need you to become someone else. I need you to be the man who reminds me what matters. Quinn touched her cheek, his voice low. You're the only thing I was ever afraid of wanting too much. She leaned into his palm. Then want me. He kissed her there, beneath the tree, with the sky overhead and the city humming softly around them. It wasn't a grand moment, but it was theirs built on the quiet, everyday choices that had carried them here. That night, after Violet had fallen asleep with her stuffed rabbit tucked under her chin and a flashlight still on beneath her pillow, Quinn and Savannah sat curled on the couch, a blanket over their legs, a half-finished bottle of wine between them. I've been thinking, Quinn said, running his thumb along the stem of his glass, about everything that's changed, about how fast it's all happened. Savannah looked at him, her expression unreadable. I never imagined this life, he continued. Not the houses, or the cities, or even the clean clothes, but also never imagined meeting someone who'd make me feel like I wasn't failing every second of the day. You never were, she whispered. He set the glass down. I know that now, because of you. Savannah's eyes searched his face, waiting. I want to marry you. Her breath hitched. I don't have a ring yet. I was going to wait, plan something, but I don't want to wait anymore. I want this forever. I want the mornings and the messes and the late-night laundry. I want your ambition and your stubbornness and your honesty. I want all of it. Tears shimmered in Savannah's eyes, but she didn't let them fall. Instead, she reached up and cupped his face, her thumb brushing his cheekbone. "Yes," she said, voice thick. "Yes without the ring. Yes without the ceremony. Yes to all of it." They kissed, slow and unhurried, as if they had all the time in the world. 6 months later, on a quiet hillside vineyard in Tuscany, surrounded by olive trees and a handful of people who mattered, they said their vows beneath an arch of wildflowers. Violet wore a crown of baby's breath and read a poem she'd written herself. The dog barked once during the ceremony and then promptly fell asleep in the sun. Savannah wore a simple gown with no train, nothing flashy. Quinn wore a navy suit and a crooked tie Violet had insisted on choosing. Afterward, at a long table set under twinkling lights, they danced barefoot on the grass while music floated through the air. No photographers, no press, just laughter, clinking glasses, and stories shared under the stars. Later that night, after everyone had gone to bed, Savannah and Quinn stood on the terrace of their villa, arms around each other. The moon hung low, and the land stretched out in ripples of silver and green. "You happy, Mrs. Carter?" Quinn asked, his fingers trailing down her bare arm. "I was happy before," she said softly, "but now I'm home." He kissed her shoulder, then her temple. "We built something real," he said. "We did," she whispered. And in the quiet that followed, with the vines rustling gently in the breeze and the future wide open before them, they stood together, no longer two people from different worlds, but one family, one love, one life. Completely, irrevocably, and beautifully theirs.